So this is my video on my discharge lab. So I decided to go to a place called Norman Park. As you can see, this is White River flowing. So I went down here. As you can see, the water was kind of high, so I did have to wear some waders. Now, so the goal of my experiment was to see if an area of White River that had a bigger cross-sectional area would have a higher velocity than the areas that had a smaller cross-sectional area, just to see if the velocity of the water was flowing faster or slower. So in my methods of how I did this, data collection methods included the following. I measured with a tape measure, which probably could have been done a little bit better. I could have had a different way of measuring, but I had one of my helpers stand with the end of the tape measure and I stood with the end, and I walked across in my waders and I measured the width of the river, and then I had a measurement stick that I pushed down into the bottom to try and get just as close of a measurement of the depth of the river as I could. I also did have I had two helpers. I had one with the stopwatch and she was recording. And then I had one that was waiting to pick my bobber up at the end of the measured length, which I also measured the same as the width. I measured with a tape measure and my helper helped me. And I did use bobbers instead of marshmallows just because I had some and I had someone there to collect them at the end of the length that I measured. Here's my data table. I did add the averages down here, and I tried to keep everything in the same measurement. So I had everything in feet up here. These were just in seconds, and then I converted everything into inches down here, or squared feet a second, and then meters a second down here for the velocity. And as we can see up here, so the locations that had the bigger cross-sectional areas also did have a bigger velocity. So in my interpretation, my hypothesis and the main goal of my experiment, in which I stated before, was true. And then just in future work, I was talking about expanding the experiment and how I wish I would have had my data table set up prior to going, just because it made it a little more difficult to make it when all of my information was kind of spread across a page. I had to find everything, put it into a table. Just would have been easier if I would have had my table already made. But overall, I think that this experiment was really, really fun way to look at velocity and discharge of water. I thought it was very, very fun, and I would do it again. Maybe just not in these waders. Maybe I would get a pair of pink waders for me.